are your most recent realizations about playing professionally at a very high level?
I think, especially this year, one big realization.
It's Elton John here. A couple of weeks ago, I did some videos in this kitchen about how crazy Step Into Christmas was driving me. And it got an incredible response, which I was quite startled.
Shattered Dreams and Rainbow Tears, the $12 million decision that broke Elton John's heart and divided a nation. Welcome back to Court Vision Plus, your ultimate destination for the most explosive, jaw-dropping stories from the world of tennis and beyond. If you're someone who craves the real story behind the headlines, the drama beneath the surface, and the moments that define not just sports but culture itself, then you're in exactly the right place. Before we dive into what might be the most emotional and controversial story of the entire tennis season, do me a favor, smash that subscribe button right now and hit the notification bell. Trust me, after you hear what went down in Melbourne, you'll want to be first in line for every update we bring you. What I'm about to share with you isn't just sports news. This is a story that has ignited fierce debates across social media, divided an entire nation, brought a music legend to tears, and forced us all to confront some deeply uncomfortable questions about tradition, progress, family, and freedom. This is about a young woman standing at the crossroads of history, a $12 million offer that would have changed her life forever, and 12 words that shattered those dreams into a million pieces. This is about Alexandra Ela, Sir Elton John, and the pride proposal that the world will be talking about for years to come. The Melbourne sun was blazing hot in January 2026, but inside the corridors of the Australian Open, the temperature was about to get even hotter. The tournament was supposed to be a celebration of athletic excellence, a showcase of the world's finest tennis players battling it out on the famous blue courts. Fans from around the globe descended upon Melbourne Park with their visors and their foam fingers, ready to witness history. And history was indeed being made, but not in the way anyone expected. Alexandra Ela arrived in Australia not as a hopeful qualifier or a promising prospect, but as a genuine force to be reckoned with. After an absolutely blistering 2025 season where she climbed the rankings with the ferocity of a hungry lioness, the young Filipina had transformed from a talented junior into a legitimate threat on the professional circuit. Back home in the Philippines, she wasn't just famous, she was a national treasure. Every match she played was watched by millions of devoted fans who saw in her something more than just a tennis player. They saw hope. They saw representation. They saw the possibility that a girl from their country could stand shoulder to shoulder with the greatest players in the world and not just compete, but win. The pressure on Ela's shoulders was immense. Every serve she hit, every forehand she crushed, every victory she celebrated wasn't just her own. It belonged to an entire nation. She was carrying the dreams of a tennis-crazy country that had been waiting decades for someone exactly like her. She was the golden girl, the chosen one, the athlete who could finally put the Philippines on the tennis map in a way that no one else ever had. That kind of pressure would break most people, but Ela seemed to thrive under it. She was focused, determined, and hungry for greatness. But as she prepared for her matches in Melbourne, something was happening behind the scenes that had nothing to do with backhands or breakpoints. Something that would test her in ways that no five-set thriller ever could. Enter Sir Elton John, stage left, in the most dramatic fashion imaginable. When Elton John shows up anywhere, you know something significant is about to happen. This isn't just any celebrity. This is a living legend, a man whose music has defined generations, whose activism has changed laws and saved lives, and whose commitment to LGBTQ+ rights has never wavered, even when it cost him dearly. Elton doesn't do anything halfway. When he believes in a cause, he puts his full weight behind it, his fame, his fortune, his influence, everything. For the 2026 Australian Open, the tournament organizers had designated a special Pride Day, a celebration of diversity and inclusion in the sport. It was meant to be a day where the tennis world stood united in support of LGBTQ+ athletes, fans, and community members. A day of rainbow flags, heartfelt speeches, and symbolic gestures. And Elton John, ever the activist, saw an opportunity to make this Pride Day something truly unforgettable. But to do that, he needed a partner. He needed someone with star power, someone with reach, someone who could bridge cultures and continents. He needed Alexandra Ila. According to exclusive leaks that have since set the internet ablaze, what happened next was extraordinary. Elton John's team approached Ila's camp with a proposal that was frankly unprecedented in the history of professional sports. This wasn't just a sponsorship deal or an endorsement opportunity. This was something far more ambitious, far more meaningful, and far more expensive. We're talking about an offer worth $12 million. Let me say that again so it really sinks in, $12 million. For context, most professional tennis players, even successful ones, never see that kind of money in their entire careers. Prize money for winning a Grand Slam tournament is significant, but $12 million would represent more than what most players earn from tournament winnings over a decade of competition. This was life-changing money. This was generational wealth. This was the kind of offer that opens doors you didn't even know existed. But the money was just the beginning. Elton John's proposal was a complete package designed to catapult Alexandra Ila from rising tennis star to global cultural icon overnight. According to insiders who were privy to the negotiations, the deal included several extraordinary components that went far beyond a simple cash payment. First, Elton offered to personally invite Ila to perform with him on stage at his next massive charity concert. Now, when I say massive, I mean an event that would be broadcast globally, watched by hundreds of millions of people, featuring some of the biggest names in music and entertainment. For a tennis player to share a stage with Elton John at an event of that magnitude would be unprecedented. It would give her a platform that no amount of tennis victories could provide. It would introduce her to audiences who might never watch a tennis match, but who would remember her name and her face forever. Second, the proposal included a joint global social media campaign. Elton's team had already mocked up the images, a photo of the legendary musician standing alongside the young tennis star, both smiling, both confident, with a caption that would read pride and strength on the court. This wasn't just about getting some likes and retweets. Elton John has tens of millions of followers across multiple platforms. His posts routinely reach hundreds of millions of people. A campaign featuring Ila would introduce her to a global audience on a scale that most athletes can only dream about. It would make her a household name from Manila to Manhattan, from Sydney to Sao Paulo. Third, and perhaps most touching of all, Elton offered to establish something truly special, the Alexandra Ila Pride Fund. This would be a scholarship program fully funded by Elton John himself, bearing Ila's name, designed specifically to help young LGBTQ+ athletes pursue their dreams in sports. It would provide financial assistance, mentorship, and support to kids who might otherwise never get the chance to develop their talents because of discrimination or lack of resources. It would be Ila's legacy, a way for her to make a tangible difference in the lives of countless young people for generations to come. And she wouldn't have to contribute a single dollar. Elton would fund the entire thing. All she had to do was lend her name and her support. It was, by any objective measure, an incredible offer. It was the kind of opportunity that agents dream about, that marketers fantasize about, that could transform a talented athlete into an international icon and humanitarian. But as with all things that seem too good to be true, there was a condition. There was a catch. And this catch, as simple as it seemed on the surface, would prove to be the boulder that crushed the entire deal. Elton John asked Alexandra Ila to wear the official Australian Open Pride 2026 rainbow bracelet. Not just for a photo opportunity. Not just for one match. But throughout the entire tournament. Every time she stepped onto the court. Every time she faced the media in a press conference. Every time a camera captured her image. The bracelet would be there, a visible symbol of support for LGBTQ+ rights and inclusion. For Elton, this wasn't an unreasonable request. In fact, it was the entire point. The money, the concert, the social media campaign, the scholarship fund, all of it was designed to amplify a message. The message that sports should be inclusive. That LGBTQ+ people belong in tennis and every other sport. That young people struggling with their identity need to see role models who stand with them. The bracelet was small, colorful, and lightweight, but it carried enormous symbolic weight. It represented acceptance, allyship, and progress. And Elton believed that if someone with Hila's profile wore it throughout the tournament, it could genuinely change lives. According to those who were present when Elton made his pitch, it was deeply emotional. This wasn't a business transaction to him, it was personal. He reportedly looked Hila in the eye and told her, "You are the pride of the Philippines. If you wear the rainbow, you will inspire millions of young LGBTQ+ people who are afraid to be themselves. You have the power to show them that they belong, that they matter, that they deserve to chase their dreams just like you have. You can be the bridge between traditional value, immense talent, a huge platform, and the potential to be a force for good beyond the tennis court." He saw someone who could represent the future, a future where athletes didn't have to choose between their sport and their values, where young people didn't have to hide who they were to be accepted. He was offering her not just money, but meaning. Not just fame, but impact. Not just success, but significance. Now imagine being Alexandra Hila in that moment. You're 19 or 20 years old. You've worked your entire life to get to where you are. You've sacrificed childhood, normalcy, sometimes even friendships to pursue excellence in your sport. You've finally arrived at a level where the world is starting to notice you. And suddenly, a living legend walks into your life and offers you $12 million and the keys to global superstardom. All you have to do is wear a bracelet. A simple, colorful bracelet. That's it. For many people, the answer would be immediate and enthusiastic. Yes. Absolutely yes. Who turns down Elton John? Who turns down $12 million? Who turns down the opportunity to be remembered not just as a good tennis player, but as someone who stood for something important, who used their platform to make the world better? The logical, pragmatic, modern answer seems obvious. But Alexandra Hila is not just an individual making a personal choice. She is a daughter. She is a representative of her culture. She is a symbol of her nation. And this is where the story takes a sharp, dramatic, and heartbreaking turn. The moment that Elton John's offer landed on the table, Hila's inner circle reportedly went into crisis mode. According to sources close to the situation, an emergency meeting was convened. The atmosphere was tense, charged with emotion and conflicting perspectives. This wasn't just about whether to wear a bracelet or accept some money. This was about politics, religion, national identity, family honor, and the immense pressure of representing a country with deeply traditional values. The Philippines is a nation of contradictions. It is vibrant, modern, and progressive in many ways, with thriving cities, a booming entertainment industry, and a young population that is increasingly connected to global culture. But it is also deeply religious, predominantly Catholic, and in many regions, profoundly conservative when it comes to social issues. While there is a visible and increasingly vocal LGBTQ+ community in the Philippines, traditional values still hold enormous sway, especially among older generations, religious leaders, and conservative political figures. For Alexandra Hila, this context matters tremendously. She isn't just playing tennis for herself. She is playing for people back home who see her as an extension of themselves, as a representative of their values and their nation. Every decision she makes is scrutinized not just as a personal choice, but as a statement about what the Philippines stands for. Sources close to Hila's family suggest that her parents, upon learning of Elton John's offer, were immediate and uncompromising in their response. The quote that has been circulating on social media, reported by multiple insiders, and has sparked countless debates is their alleged plea to their daughter: "Don't accept that offer. Protect the honor of the nation. Protect the honor of the nation." Those 5 words carry enormous weight. They reveal a worldview in which aligning with the Pride movement, wearing that rainbow bracelet, would somehow tarnish the image of the Philippines, would somehow dishonor the family, would somehow betray the values that Hila was raised with. They suggest that there is a conflict between being a good representative of the Philippines and supporting LGBTQ+ rights, as if the two cannot coexist. Hila's parents reportedly expressed deep concern about the potential backlash. They feared that conservative fans back home, the very people who had supported Ela from the beginning, would turn on her. They worried that sponsors, many of whom cater to traditional audiences, would drop her. They were afraid that religious groups would condemn her. They envisioned a scenario where their daughter, who had worked so hard to become a national hero, would instead become a national controversy. They urged her to stay neutral, to focus on tennis, to be the good daughter who honors her family's wishes and doesn't rock the boat. And so Alexandra Ela found herself trapped in an impossible situation. On one side was the glittering promise of Elton John's offer, $12 million, global fame, a meaningful legacy, and the approval of progressive voices around the world who would celebrate her as a hero. On the other side was her family, her upbringing, her faith, and the weight of representing a nation that might not be ready for what Elton was asking her to symbolize. Reports from those close to the situation indicate that Ela was genuinely torn. She wasn't dismissive of Elton's offer. She wasn't hateful toward the LGBTQ+ community. By all accounts, she is a kind, thoughtful young woman who understands the struggles that marginalized people face. She respects Elton John immensely. She was, according to witnesses, visibly distressed by the decision she had to make. She knew that whatever she chose, she would disappoint someone. Accept the offer, and she risks losing the support of her family and her more traditional fans. Decline the offer, and she would be seen as rejecting a cause that desperately needs allies. This wasn't a simple business decision. This was a young woman being asked to choose between her past and her future, between duty and desire, between obedience and autonomy. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. Elton John was waiting for an answer. The contract sat on the table, ready to be signed. The rainbow bracelet, such a small piece of fabric carrying such enormous symbolic weight, was right there. The $12 million, the concert performance, the global campaign, the scholarship fund, all of it hinged on a single word. Yes or no? Alexandra Ela didn't hide behind lawyers or agents. She didn't send a carefully worded email. According to insiders, she spoke to Elton John directly, face to face. And in that moment, she delivered a response that consisted of just 12 words. 12 words that closed the door on $12 million. 12 words that ended the partnership before it could begin. 12 words that, according to multiple witnesses, brought tears to Elton John's eyes. What were those 12 words? While neither Ela's team nor Elton John's representatives have released an official transcript of the conversation, insiders who were present or close to the situation have pieced together the essence of her heartbreaking refusal. The consensus is that she looked at Elton John, with tears welling in her own eyes, and said something to this effect. I respect you, sir, but I must obey my parents and God. Let's count them. I respect you, sir, but I must obey my parents and God. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 words. With that simple, devastating sentence, the deal was dead. The room fell silent. The weight of the moment hung in the air like smoke. This wasn't a rejection born of arrogance or indifference. This wasn't Ela saying that she didn't care about LGBTQ+ rights or that she looked down on the cause. This was a young woman, barely out of her teens, articulating that she felt she had no choice. That the expectations of her family, her faith, and her culture were simply too powerful to resist, even in the face of $12 million and the chance to change the world. Elton John's reaction, as reported by those present, was not one of anger. He didn't yell. He didn't storm out of the room in a rage. He didn't threaten or condemn. Instead, he simply cried. He cried because he understood, perhaps better than anyone else in that room, what had just happened. Elton John is a man who spent much of his own life trapped by expectations, hiding his true self because he was afraid of disappointing people, afraid of losing his career, afraid of the judgment that would come if he lived authentically. He fought for decades to break free from those chains, to live openly and honestly, to use his voice and his platform to help others do the same. And in that moment, looking at Alexandra Ela, he saw a young person who felt she didn't have the freedom that he had fought so hard to claim for himself and others. He cried for the millions of young LGBTQ+ people who might have been inspired by seeing someone like Ela stand with them, but who would now continue to feel invisible. He cried because, even in 2026, in an increasingly connected and progressive world, the fear of dishonoring one's family, the pressure to conform to traditional expectations, is still powerful enough to silence even a $12 million opportunity. He cried because the world he has been fighting to create, a world where young people can be themselves without fear, still feels so far away. The aftermath of this decision has been swift, intense, and deeply polarizing. News of the rejected offer spread like wildfire across social media, news outlets, and sports forums. Within hours, it became one of the most talked about stories not just in tennis, but in the entire world of sports and beyond. People from all walks of life weighed in with their opinions, their outrage, their support, their condemnation. This story forces all of us to confront some deeply uncomfortable questions. How much control do young athletes really have over their own voices when they are constantly being told they represent something bigger than themselves? At what point does respecting your parents become suppressing yourself? When does honoring tradition become enabling discrimination? And in the high-stakes world of professional sports, where every action is scrutinized and politicized, is it ever truly possible to just play the game? There are no easy answers. Alexandra Ela is not a villain in this story. She is a young woman caught between two worlds, two sets of values, two visions of what it means to be a good person. She made the choice that felt right to her in the moment, the choice that allowed her to stay true to the values she was raised with, even if it meant walking away from an opportunity that will likely never come again. But the fact that she felt she had to make that choice, the fact that supporting LGBTQ+ rights was framed as incompatible with honoring her family and her nation, reveals just how much work still needs to be done. It reveals that for all the progress that has been made in recent years, for all the pride flags and inclusive policies and corporate statements of support, there are still vast swaths of the world where being an ally is seen as a betrayal. The collision of Alexandra Ela and Elton John was a collision of the past and the future, a clash between traditional values and progressive ideals, resolved in the most human way possible, with tears, with regret, and with 12 simple words that carried the weight of the world. So now I turn the question over to you. What do you think? Did Alexandra Ela make the right decision by turning down the $12 million to honor her parents' wishes and her faith? Or did she miss a historic opportunity to use her platform for something bigger than tennis, to stand with marginalized people who desperately needed an ally? Was Elton John's condition reasonable, or was it unfair to put that kind of pressure on a young athlete? Should athletes be expected to take political and social stands, or should they be free to focus solely on their sport? And what does this story tell us about the world we live in, about the progress we've made and the distance we still have to travel? This is a story that reaches far beyond the tennis court. It's about identity, about courage, about the price of progress and the weight of tradition. It's about who we are, who we want to be, and what we're willing to sacrifice to get there. I want to hear from you. Head down to the comments section right now and let me know what you think. Do you stand with Ela's decision, or do you wish she had taken Elton's offer? Are you disappointed, inspired, angry, or understanding? We read every single comment, and I promise you, the conversation happening down there is just as important as the story itself. If this deep dive into one of the most controversial and emotional stories of the year moved you, challenged you, or made you think, please hit that like button. It genuinely helps us reach more people and continue bringing you this kind of in-depth, no-holds-barred content. Share this video with your friends, your family, anyone who loves sports, drama, and stories that matter. This is a conversation that needs to be had, and the more people who join it, the better. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Court Vision Plus. We're not just another sports channel. We're here to bring you the stories behind the stories, the drama beneath the surface, the moments that define not just games but culture. We're here every single day with content that will challenge you, entertain you, and keep you coming back for more. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss what we have coming next. Until next time, keep your eyes on the court, but never forget that the most important battles are often fought far away from the baseline. Peace.
I would say that anything is possible and, to dream big. I think me as a person, I'm very ambitious.
It's so wonderful to be number one in the charts with Who Believes in Angels, because this is an album that really means so much to me.
Congratulations on your win. What is the key for your rhythm and consistency? And I would like to know if you have a ritual or a specific preparation before you go on court.